Today we turn old jeans into a rather simple but statement shoulder bag. No sewing patterns, no zipper, and no...
Turn off the camera.
I wish I could say confusion, but bear with me, the end result will be worth it. I'm calling this one Tote or Lost.
Welcome back to the fashion rack. So we have a rather normal kind of low waist jeans. Kinda will work with any jeans what we're gonna do, if it's gonna work at all.
Have you ever Seamrip those jean seams open, those top stitched ones? I feel your pain. There's only one promise I made to myself in my life: to never ever do that again. We simply use the seam slicer, aka scissors, cut right along the seam on both sides so that the entire inner leg seam is simply just removed, saving us lots of time. Oh, I already like this bag. Then I'm cutting away the white pocketing parts just because they're a little in the way, and we don't need them anymore anyway.
I'm definitely wanna cut a piece of the legs. We're gonna hang the legs around the shoulder. The crotch is gonna be the back part and the legs are gonna be the handle. This is gonna hang over the shoulders. So I wanna crop the legs. So it's gonna be a shoulder bag and it's not gonna like hang like entirely on the hip. But you can make it as long as you want, of course. And you know what they say about cutting? You can't cut it off, but you can't cut it back off.
All I wanted to say is you better cut them a little too long than a little too short now. So I marked it with a pin and gonna just crop the legs to make the bag more bag. Or should I say jeans more bag? I wanted to reinforce the fabric. The logical choice would be to use iron-on interfacing. But don't you think doing things logically is maybe a little bit, well, boring? And okay, I really didn't want to go to the sewing store. Why not use the bottom legs to reinforce the bag using a little bit of spray glue? Okay, there might be reasons why not to, but I'm actually still testing this out. Voila! Zero waste, maximum taste.
Alright, I've been sleeping a night over it, thinking that maybe the bag would have finished itself, or I would have a really great, awesome idea and be very secure about what I'm gonna do with this thing. But no, none of that. So I propose to go very step by step.
Starting with closing the waistband, lining up the back and front as precisely as possible, adding a few pins from side to side, to then add a top stitch right along the edge. So grab your denim needle. We are gonna do some heavy duty work here. Ideally you want to follow the top stitch that's already present in the jeans, or get as close to the edge as you can. Hot tip: move the needle a little bit to the side. This way we have more fabric under the sewing foot, helping the transportation of these thick layers. But on a domestic sewing machine, don't go silly willy-nilly. Use the hand wheel to get over those bumpy belt loops. Sewing machines suffer already enough. When I come at the button, I actually maneuver magically around it. Okay, I actually moved the needle a little, open the fly and sew a little bit underneath until I could not really get any further. So from the other side to close the rest of the jeans, because I used some pretty serious reinforcement, it's quite heavy, I'm gonna trim some away of where the seams are gonna come, so that the seams will be a little more flexible and elegant, just like you guessed it, myself. Let's line up the ends of the legs, good side on good side. So now the back leg is on the back leg and the front leg is on the front leg, and the side seams should match up more or less exactly. Try to open the seam allowances, but if that's not possible, pull it to one side and the other side to the other side, so that you don't have 4 seam allowances stacked together, and sew them together with a normal amount of seam allowance. And never ever forget, iron open the seam allowance, because we are not that kind of people that forget. Oh no.
If there's one plan that I always execute, it's the plan to not stick to any plan. That's what we have now, guys. If you want, but I guess I do like the little pockets, back pockets on the outside. The plan was actually to add horizontal elastic. I see it like this, I'm like, that's not gonna really benefit the bags. I think we're almost finished, basically.
Oh, you can't tell me there's anything more satisfying than bringing this old, disgusting, wrinkled rag back to life. I wasn't talking about you, but about this piece of lining that I ripped out of an old garment. Whoa.
I can take almost any fabric for lining, but for the sake of keeping things a little bit easy clean, I would take something that is synthetic.
You know the good old saying, the lining does not lie. I might just have made that up, but it's true. If the lining isn't quite right, it can lead to all kinds of problems. Try to cut the shape of the jeans, the back side a little bit bigger than the front side. As you can see here in the overlap, the back of the jeans is always bigger. And inside, you might actually want to crop this whole overlap off. You could cut 4 of the same lining pieces. Outer side seam moves naturally a little bit to the front, but to keep it simple, the seam of the lining is just gonna come at the fold. This thing has 2 compartments, so we need 4 pieces of lining, but I fold the fabric to just cut 2 pieces at the same time. Already challenging enough. Add the 1 centimeter seam allowance all around. Best to err on the side of caution and cut it a little bit on the big side, because it will be easier to reduce it later or work the fabric a little bit in. So we have sort of 2 front legs and 2 back legs. You think everything was going a little too smooth up till now? Oh heck, now you jinxed it. I first close the outer leg seams, the ones that are gonna come at the fold. So a front and a back leg. In reality, I think you better close them last. Imagine the side seams are not closed, so sorry for the confusion. Instead, we start at the crotch seams, good side on good side, pinning them together with a few pins. On the front, I had to check the correct length because I didn't really mark it and was a little hard to see. Do need the inner legs to be the correct size to be able to fit in the opening of the back. So closing the 2 front and 2 back parts together, whilst the inner leg seams remain open. So that should look something like this. Back and front are joined at the crotch now. Then I close the waist already. In inside, I'd probably do this one as the very last seam. Oh please, enjoy the peaceful sounds of sewing and naivety while we can. Whilst I was still under the impression I was going stronger than ever. Enough foreshadowing.
Oh, the pocket is open.
Kinda forgot I cut it open, but even if you did it, probably best to just close them with a top stitch. So I'm gonna stitch right over the edge stitch. So kind of like closing the waistband, pinning it down and slowly stitching over the stitch that's already there. It will be fine if you can't reach all the way to the top. If I could only fire myself.
Sachet away.
This would be the moment. This is really my most chaotic tutorial ever. But don't worry, if anything goes wrong, I have a great hot tip coming up how to fix it. So let's assume, as opposed to me, that you left these side seams open. So you would have 2 front legs here and 2 loose back legs here. So you're gonna close the front legs good side on good side and the back legs separately good side on good side. To make it a little more clear, let's fast forward to when I realized I did it all wrong and I already opened the side seam and bottom seam again. So the last thing we did was closing the ends of the legs together. Ignore these pins, the sides are still completely open. And what we want to do is attach the lining all around the 2 openings of the bag, like already done here. Let's fast forward and reverse to make it even more clear. We have to sew the front legs of the lining to the front legs of the jeans and the same for the back, so that we have finished the 2 sides that are still open, which I'm showing here. We're back to where we were now. Pinning the lining into the opening of the bag, as always good side on good side, and the seams basically function as our notches here. We make sure that they're matching up at the bottom of the leg and at the crotch, and then place pins all around. And if your lining is a little bit big, just like yours truly, we might have to work in the fabric just a little, basically making sure to divide the pins very well so that all the fabric is evenly divided. Maybe stretch the fabrics a little bit out under the sewing machine, not ideal, but cutting the exact right lining for a project like this is almost impossible. Is what they say. It's what I say.
Let the bag be born. This is what we've all been waiting for.
Run.
Push. Oh, not too hard. Not too hard. I'm so confused. I'm so confused. I do it wrong. It's happening. Turn off the camera. I need a moment.
And then we were at this point again. The future. Well, what was the future before? I just opened the side seams again. Hopefully you never closed them. Like still, I just could not figure it out. Could do the mathematics overlay a lot today, but that makes it seem like something was going on in my brain. But at this point you can better call it blacking out. So my hot tip, turn it back on please. Now. It's just to pin the seams together, so I'm actually folding them in with the seam allowance to the right side. Just how you'd want to see the back when it's finished. Just a few pins will do, it's just to get the idea. And when you did that, you can then reverse the back. Now you know exactly how to close the seam, because your pins exactly tell you how to, and then you can just spin the rest of the seam like you normally would. Now it's time to close the entire side seams again, and the bottom of the back where the waistband is will stay open to turn the back around. Then reverse, fingers crossed and hope for the best. Voila, the bird of the bag. Only the bottom seams still have to be closed by hand or just fold it in and top stitch over it. So we took a little bit of a shortcut by not adding a facing to the edge. The lining wants to pop out, but we don't want that naughty lining. To combat that, I'm gonna add an edge stitch right along, you guessed it, the edge. If I would do the back again, probably add a facing, or even choose a fabric lining color that isn't nasty brown would already help. And because that one cute little edge stitch was not really doing the job, I'm adding one more stitch around, a little bit further inward, making sure the lining is folded in as far as possible, and this stitch did a better job.
You may wonder, what is it? Look, now it's jeans, but I thought to fold it in like this, and then you get a really luxurious sort of Coperni feel. Sort of. And it sort of closes the back. Of course, we can add some push buttons. Even like the magnetic push buttons would actually be quite a good one for this, I think. To have a few of those. Maybe 3 here at the bottom.
Want to use rivets to keep the handle folded in half. But if you don't have rivets, you could also do an embroidery stitch. If your machine can take it, do it with the machine. And yes, this is the actual manual. It's a few symbols. Already preparing for my second blackout of the day. But according to the Google, it's pretty easy. Mark the fabric where you want to have the rivet. Then there's a little tube that you can put in the purple thing. That's the hole puncher, so you have to put the hollow side downward, obviously. And then there's this super practical, super tiny thingy to protect your table, hopefully, if you hit it on the bullseye. Smash a few times with the hammer, and that's it. Quite fun. I do piercings now too, by the way. If you want, DM me. You can remove the tube, which was a challenge on its own, and add the 2 other attachments, one for the female parts and one for the male parts, to say it politely. I add the male part, which you can recognize from that thing sticking out, to say it politely, and I lay it down and try to push it almost entirely through my hole so that I can put the female part on top, and then bang bang with the hammer, of course. That's sitting pretty well. It's a bullseye.
Okay. Yo. I hope this was a little bit of an understandable story, because I've been editing. At some point I really didn't get it myself anymore. Hard to explain when you do something wrong, how to do it right. I do dare to start this bag. I promise I think it's not as hard as I have made it seem today. Let me know if you're motivated to sew a bag now, or did I just achieve the opposite. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you to our Patreons. Thank you for everyone who wants to subscribe to learn with me. Quite obsessed, but I'm always with my own stuff. So let me know what you think. You have to watch out a little bit for pickpockets when there's no zipper. On the other hand, they can easily open zippers as well. So why even bother? Just have your bag open, let them grab it. No, that's not what I mean. Sort of folds inside. Someone wants to get their hand in. It's like, by the time they're down here, you can do like, get out! But I digress.